Oh yeah, it ain't over, motherfuckers.
Stand by. Here's the president, his 15th statement on shootings since taking office.
There's been another mass shooting in America.
I know. It's hard to listen to Barack Obama talk under the best of circumstances. And this speech is already old, and it's been picked clean by just about everybody else. But give me a break. My computer was fucked up and I didn't get a chance to record a video for a long time. And there's much to be learned.
That means there are more American families, moms, dads, children, whose lives have been changed forever.
Here's the usual appeals to emotion instead of logic. Get ready for more of that. Has his cadence worsened since he became president, or is it just harder to sit through his speeches? It takes him forever to say anything. Let's speed him up.
That means there's another community stunned with grief, and communities across the country forced to relieve their own anguish, and parents across the country who are scared because they know it might have been their families or their children.
As you can hear, this is nothing but words that make you feel bad. Community stunned with grief, anguish, parents who are scared. Obviously, this is a tragedy, but you should always be weary of emotionally manipulative language like this. Obama is using his oratory skills to stroke your emotions and shut down the logical part of your brain. Let's skip through the nonsense and see where he's actually going with this.
Our thoughts and prayers are not enough.
Okay, that's one of the most logical statements I've ever heard Barack Obama make. Prayers don't accomplish anything. Well, we found our common ground.
But we are not the only country on earth that has people with mental illnesses or want to do harm to other people.
We know that other countries, in response to one mass shooting, have been able to craft laws that almost eliminate mass shootings.
Okay, we're finally getting to the point. And it's more or less what you'd expect. We need more gun control, because the government has proven itself very competent in making things go away. But I'll take the bait. Name some of these other countries with gun laws that are so much more common sense than what we have here in the US.
Great Britain, Australia.
Okay, now we know what Obama's endgame is. In Great Britain, gun ownership is licensed, and to obtain a firearm certificate, the police must be satisfied that a person has a good reason to own each firearm, and that they can be trusted with it without danger to the public safety or to the peace. Under Home Office guidelines, firearm certificates are only issued if a person has a legitimate sporting, collecting, or work-related reason for ownership. Since 1968, self-defense has not been considered a valid reason to own a firearm. In Australia, gun ownership is licensed. Not only that, imitation guns are prohibited, and possession can land you 10 years in prison. And air guns are as hard to get as centerfire and rimfire guns. That's very common sense. Obama then goes on to admit that he's politicizing the deaths of innocent people.
Well, this is something we should politicize.
That is a stunning admission, and I really hope that Obama has overplayed his hand on this one. Everyone knows that left-wing politicians fall all over themselves to get in front of a television camera and make grandiose statements after a hyped-up shooting. But I never thought I'd see the day when one would actually admit that they were using the tragic deaths of innocent people to advance their political agenda. The right to own weapons for self-defense is just as much of a civil right as free speech. It's protected by the Constitution just as carefully as free speech. If the government wants to infringe upon your right to own weapons, it needs a constitutional amendment to do so. But that's hard to do. So watch for Obama to try and slip something through Congress, or worse, command his vast bureaucracy with an executive order. Have you ever wondered why they're so adamant about this? Generally, the Democrats sort of stand for some kind of individual freedoms, like abortion and gay marriage. Where does this hostility toward individual ownership of firearms come from? Well, it comes from a dark place. You probably don't remember Obama advisor Don Bloom. He worked as assistant to the president for manufacturing policy between February of 2011 and August 2011. In the Department of the Treasury as senior advisor to the Secretary of the Treasury, and a member of the President's task force on the automotive industry, also as senior counselor to the U.S. President for manufacturing policy. In other words, he was a bigwig in the Obama administration. He caused a short-lived media frenzy on right-wing radio shows and blogs when he said,
"We know this is largely about power, that it's an adults-only, no-limit game. We kind of agree with Mao that political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun.
Isn't that interesting?
Political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun. Political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun. Political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun."
And this is the root of the left's drive to relieve law-abiding citizens of their weapons. Political power flows from the barrel of a gun, by definition, in a very real and literal sense. Why does anyone listen to the government at all? Because they're so persuasive with their logical reasoning? Because they ask extra nicely and say pretty please with sugar on top? No. It's because the government can send men with guns to shoot you in the fucking face if you don't do what they say. When leftists say that political power comes from the barrel of a gun, it's just another way of saying that the state is violence. And leftists want to use the violence of the state to shape society in almost every conceivable way. For example, both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are promising free college education as part of their campaigns. But the government can't give away a college education. College professors need to earn a living. Dormitories and classroom buildings need to be built and maintained. The government can only give away something that it first steals from someone else. So that means that you'll be paying for your neighbor's college education. It doesn't matter what your situation in life is. Maybe you're house poor because your income has come down as part of the recession, but you can't sell your house because it lost too much value when the housing bubble burst. You need every dollar you can scrape together. But your taxes will have to go up, or inflation caused by government spending will cause the value of your dollar to go down. If you don't pay taxes, the government will send men with guns to your house to use violence against you until you either pay or until you're dead or in prison. The left is partially responsible for the creation of, and always seeks to expand the power of, the unconstitutional fourth branch of government known as regulatory agencies. They constantly pump out new regulations on businesses through the EPA, the FDA, OSHA, the FCC, the FAA, the FERC, the MFC, the DOT, the SEC, and on and on and on. These agencies pump out page after page of regulations that touch on every facet of life. And if you get caught violating their rules, they will send men with guns to your house. And if you don't comply, you will be driven out of business and ultimately imprisoned or killed. The foundational premise of the left is that the state can be used to mold society. The state's power comes from gun violence. The left seeks to build a world where you live under the barrel of their guns, from the minute you're born until the minute your body is lowered into a federally standard-sized grave in a federally mandated coffin. They just don't want you to shoot back.